How's it going? Haven't done a video of me doing a job in ages, so today we are working on the Mazda. Let me show you what I've been doing. Got the cool sticker there, and roof stickers, which you can't see. There we go. And I've got a naughty knobs shift knob now. My two gauges. So what I've been doing, which is pretty exciting, putting a turbo on the Mazda. This is I think it's an RHF4 turbo. It's an IHI RHF4 off of a D22 Nissan Navara. And I haven't done any recording up to this point. I've taken a few photos of the manifold, which I'll put in here. Spit some flames. Since I haven't done any recording, I thought I'd best make a video of explaining where I'm up to before I carry on and get any further into it or get it finished. So I've just taken my old air filter off, or my old intake pipe across here, taken that off, the air filter box off, chucked that in the boot. I took my old exhaust manifold off, and I cut it up and then welded it back together and made a turbo or tubular turbo manifold. I got my turbo flanges made at Chase. They did them for me. They were pretty good. Took ages to get them shipped. Well, it didn't take ages to get them made, but they wouldn't release them until they had some kind of paperwork. So it took me ages to get those. So yeah, like I said, this is a second-hand turbo off of a D22 Nissan Navara. Water-cooled one. Pretty small. It maxes out at about 190 horsepower from what I've found out. But it's extremely hard to find a compressor mat for it. So yeah. I guess we'll see how much I can push it. At the moment I'm running it with no intercooler, or I'm going to run it with no intercooler. My intake pipe is a 56 or 60 mil. I wanted it like a 62 mil, but this is the pipe that I had. It's just exhaust pipe, welded together, comes down there, squeezes in between my front pulley and the fans. Sorry about the rain, I can't do anything about that. Got my blow-off valve just on a pipe fitting there, and then a 90 degree, and it comes up into my intake there. I've got this pipe down in there for my idle control valve. Now a lot of people delete that, but I wanted to leave it on so I can still run it with the stock ECU if need be. I've just got my blow-off valve running from this vacuum port here, because this one does my ECU and I didn't really want to tee into that one. I've used fuel hose for my coolant, and it's pretty common. You just take the coolant from there into the turbo, and then out of the turbo and down onto there. Because stock, there's a hose that goes from this down to that. So you can see down in there, that top bung, which is there, that one has coolant behind it. the bottom one there, that one has oil pressure. You don't want to hook them up wrong. So I've just got my oil pressure there. That comes up this pipe, which is just EFI fuel hose, goes into the top. Got my oil drain just coming out here. It's just a steel pipe at the moment. Just comes to there. Today I'm going to be drilling the oil pan, or the sump. Down there somewhere. Yeah, so I'll be drilling the sump and putting a fitting in so I can start it up. My compressor housing, the turbo that I've got has flanges on it instead of hose fittings. So I've got a TIG and I'm just welding this here fitting onto that. This one here is the turbo intake, so I'm just going to make a flange for that. Yeah, so I've just welded that onto there. I'm going to make a flange for this. This is for my air filter. I'm going to use a die grinder and grind that out because that's extremely small. And yeah, that's going to go on like that, pointing down. This is my downpipe flange. I got that made by Chase as well. It's going to have a full 3-inch exhaust for lots of turbo noises and annoy the Karens. So yeah, that's where I'm up to so far. Right, to drill the sump, you're going to need a fitting. This is a 3/8 BHP thread, and I've got a 90-degree one because I couldn't find a straight one. You're going to need a tap. You should have a tapered tap, but I couldn't find a tapered tap, so I've got a bottom tap. Oh yeah, so that's the part number of my tap, and that's my drill bit there, 15mm, which is this drill bit. You need a piece of hose, and that hose there is just my sample. So what you do is you get a piece of hose, you slide it onto the drill like that, and there has to be just enough sticking out that it will drill through the side of the sump. If there's too much sticking out, it will go right through your oil pan and hit the oil pickup and make a hole in the side of the oil pickup, and then it'll just suck up air and you'll lose oil pressure, and that means that your engine is pretty much rubbish after that point. So you have to only have a tiny bit sticking out. I just have like a half a finger width, and then we'll drill it and see where we go from there. If I need to drill it further, I'll cut a tiny bit more of this hose off and then drill through again. Get a hammer and a dot punch, and if you look up here at the sump, see there's these little grooves here that lead up to the bolts. You want to drill a hole perfectly in the middle of this square. So you just want to dot punch right in the middle of there, somewhere there, and then you want to drill through that. Just want to give it one good tap and then check it's in the right place, and then if your tap isn't very sharp, then you can give it another tap, but make sure it's perfectly in the same place. So that's where I've done mine. You also want some grease, and you just want to fill up the little flutes on the drill bit to sort of halfway, and the purpose of that is to catch all the aluminium shavings that get drilled away, because you don't want those going into your engine. So you just want to fill up the little grooves like that. Use heaps of grease, you're not going to use too much, and then put the hose back on over the top, and you should be a go to drill. Drilling, you want to use a nice slow drill speed so that the hole stays nice and round and the drill bit doesn't bounce around, because if you drill too fast the drill can wobble and then the hole will be out of round and way too big. Also, you want to pull it out and then clean it to get all those metal shavings away, and then re-grease it. As the hole is drilled, you just want to poke your torch up there in your head and look in and make sure that you haven't drilled through into anything. If you know me, you can come and borrow this drill bit and this tap when I'm done with it, if you're doing your own turbo build. This little piece of rubber hose here is absolutely necessary, like 100% necessary, because as you're drilling through, it'll get to the last little bit and then it'll try and yank the drill bit in. It's what it did to me, and everyone who does this says that they have to use that little bit of pipe. Yeah, so now we're going to drill. Now we're going to tap it. My fitting is 3/8 BHS fitting, and I have a 3/8 BHS tap here. Normally you'd use a straight fitting, but I couldn't find a straight fitting, so I think I'm going to have to cut this one here and then braze it together in a straight line, or maybe it'll work as a 90, I'm not sure. So with the tap, you don't want to drop this. You want to fill in all the little grooves in the tap, all the little flutes, same as you did the drill bit, because the last thing that you want is any aluminium shavings, which there are a lot of. You do not want those going into your sump, because that would be very bad. Tap is supposed to be at 90 degrees, like perfectly 90 degrees to the edge of the sump, or to the side of the sump that you're drilling through. And make sure that those flutes are greased properly. And if you're using a tapered tap, you don't want to go all the way through, because you don't want to go all the way into the end of the threads on the tap, because that'll make the hole too big. It's a tapered tap. It's designed to be tight halfway up the brass fitting that or steel fitting, whatever sort of fitting you're using. Mine isn't a tapered tap, but I'm still not going to go all the way in, because it might hit the oil pickup. So you should use a proper tap tool, but I don't have one of those for that size, so I'm just going to use a little crescent. And when you're tapping, you go half a turn in, 1/4 of a turn out, half a turn in, 1/4 of a turn out, and it just helps break away the little pieces that the thread is cutting, or that the tap is cutting. And you want to take this out regularly and clean the little metal shavings or aluminium shavings out of the grease, and then re-grease it. It is 100% important that you take this out, because see the little shavings on there? You do not want those falling off in your sump. So you have to take it out and clean it. See, I've only gone in like one turn, and I'm already taking it out and cleaning it. Once you have finished tapping that, take the tap out, get your little brass fitting, and test it. And just like that. Perfect, eh? You want to put some thread tape on that when you put it in. And remember, brass is very soft, and you're putting and aluminium is very soft, and you're putting a brass fitting into aluminium, so it doesn't have to be very tight. And if you use thread tape or some kind of sealer, it doesn't have to be tight again. And because this is a very soft aluminium sump, probably made from shavings that they've swept up off the floor, so it's a low quality sump, you do not want to over tighten it, because you might cause it to crack, and that would be very bad. So you just want to do it up by hand, and then give it like 1/4 of a turn nip, and then that's it. It should be perfectly tight. If you under tighten it, it might leak a little bit. You'll be able to see, and you'll be able to tighten it up a little bit more. If you over tighten it and crack the sump, then you've got a major issue, and the whole engine has to come out, or the subframe has to come out to get the sump off, and you have to buy a new sump. So don't over tighten it. When you've drilled that out and then tapped it, you want to drain your oil. You want to drain it into a nice clean container, so that you can look for any kind of metal filings in there. When you're draining the oil, if you want, you can rinse through that hole there with some kind of solvent. I'm using brake clean in a container, and I'm just spraying it in all around in that hole, everywhere I can get. I'm hoping it'll break down the grease and then rinse all the little shavings down to the lowest point, and then they'll drain out the bung with the solvent that's washing out, or the brake clean that's washing out of there. When you have thread taped that fitting, you want to screw that into your sump, fit your oil drain hose. Make sure you put the hose clamps on in a way that future you isn't going to hate present you. And I'll show you the top ones, or top one, just like that. Make sure that they're hose clamped properly, because you don't want it to come off and pour all your oil out. And then if you have your pressure, oil feed and coolant lines hooked up, should be ready for a test start. But I have to weld up my compressor housing, so I'm going to do that now. Obviously, before you test start it, you do want to fill it up with oil, because if you don't fill it up with oil, that would be very bad for everything and everyone. That would be worse than drilling a hole into your oil pickup, where it'd be the same worseness.